Good morning and welcome. My name is Karen Morton, and I am the Northeast Regional Director for the Republican Liberty Caucus of Florida. We are here this morning to talk with candidates who will be appearing on the primary ballot in Clay County and are running for school board. We are extremely happy this morning that all 5 school board candidates that will appear on ballots are here with us, and we'll be answering questions. We have 5 candidates, but they're running for 2 different seats. So first of all, we have Aaron Knowles. Second, Beth Clark. And third, Carol Studdard. These 3 people are running against each other for the District 2 seat. Then moving down further, we have Rod Herring and Mary Bola. And those 2 individuals are running for the school board seat for District 4. So kind of keep that in mind. Depending on where you live, one of these groups is going to be included on your ballot. And, I'm sorry, you're all on, I apologize, different county. They'll all be on your ballot, but you've got this choicing. So the first 3 people are in District 2, and the last 2 people are in District 4, and you will be able to choose one from each group. So without further ado, thank you all very much for being here. We love it. We're proud to provide the forum, and I'm going to introduce our moderator for the morning. This man is a retired U.S. Navy captain. He is a former congressional candidate for District 4, and he is the current national spokesman for the We Can Be Heroes Foundation. Please welcome Ryman Schoaf.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you for that. Karen. Yep. Okay, good morning, candidates. We're so glad that you're here. Just want to go over just a couple of rules. It's kind of the groundwork. We'll start with a 2-minute open and a 2-minute close. All of you randomly selected numbers, and so you know the number that you received. We'll start with the opening comments from the individual with the first number, and then the last person that will open, you'll be the first person to close when we get to the end, and then we'll work in the reverse number. I'll tell you how much time you have for each question so that you can put that into your thought process of how you're going to answer the question. We have Mr. Travis down here, and he is the keeper of the time. He will give you a 15-second sign when you have 15 seconds left. When your time is up, we will wave Old Glory for you. And if you continue to talk after that, you're going to get the dreaded cowbell. Okay. So now we know the rules there. You are presenting a case to the voters on why they should vote for you. If you take your time to make negative comments about someone else who's running, we'll give that individual 30 seconds to respond. But again, we would ask that you convince the voters to vote for you and not try to convince the voters not to vote for someone else. Okay? So we'll begin. And this is the 2-minute open. Mr. Knowles, I see that you picked the first number. So we'll begin with you.
Okay, thank you very much for having me. Good morning. My name is Dr. Aaron Knowles. I'm running for a seat on the Clay County School Board for District 2. My experience both educationally and professionally has revolved around education my entire life. Both of my parents were public school teachers in Florida in 5 different counties. I currently have 2 daughters in the public school system in Clay County. A third just graduated this past spring. My career started as a admissions counselor at a for-profit college where I moved into a director of finance position and then a campus president. So I have experience on the administrative side of education. Currently, I'm a college professor at St. John's River State College and have been for the past 6 years, so I have experience in the classroom. I believe that my knowledge and understanding of how education works from both a business perspective and a teaching perspective provides me a unique ability to look at the situation that we have from all angles, make an educated and experiential decision, and work as a team with my fellow school board members. Thank you very much. I look forward to your vote.
Thank you. Mrs. Clark?
Hi, Beth Clark, running for District 2, as Karen mentioned. I am simply a concerned citizen that's been watching the school board for some time, for at least a decade now. And I decided to jump in the race because I feel it's time to work towards a school board that works well together, that works with the sheriff's office, the county commission, with a positive outcome. I have many years business experience. I'm not a teacher and I don't profess to be, but I think the board needs a good balance. I think we've got plenty of wonderful representation of teachers on the board, and I think it's time, with our growth that's planned, something that Clay has never seen, with the 795 interchange tying 3 counties together, it's just going to boom. So I think we need a set of fresh eyes. I'm willing to jump in, and I have actually moved here like many people have done. I moved here in '83, so I have gone the volunteer route. I haven't taught, but I've gone the volunteer route as well as being on the SAC committee, and just feel that it's time. We've got a new union rep coming in. We've got a new superintendent coming in. We've got, as I said, the Beltway coming in with a ton of growth, and I'm pretty knowledgeable about the direction that's going to take us with impact fees and how we need to plan our numbers so that we're responsible to our citizens. And obviously, the children are a #1 priority, but if we don't take care of the business at hand, we can't do the best that we can for our children. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Stoddard?
Yes, thank you. My name is Carol Studdard. I'm running for re-election to the Clay County School Board in District 2. My family moved here in 1979. We have 3 daughters who are now grown. They all went through the public schools here in Clay County. Since we moved here in '79, I have been very involved in the schools and in helping the children. I have mentored for 26 years students to help them. I have taken part as Chorus Parents President and PTA President and Citizens Advisory Committee and different things. Being on the school board is my passion. I'm here for the kids and trying to make them have the best education possible. I've been very involved in civic activities throughout the 41 years that we've lived here. Right now, with the Outer Beltway coming in, we are facing a huge growth spurt. We are dealing with the opening schools during the pandemic, and I think we are doing a good job, and we will be preparing for the new growth that is coming in. We have received good audits each year. We have an excellent budget assistant superintendent. When Mr. Davis left to go to Tampa, he took several of our top administrators, and I'll say that he did bring most of them in with him from Duval when he came. But right now, we have a good team in place, working hard day and night to get school open. I think my experience and knowledge of the past years on the school board will be beneficial at this time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I would ask the candidates to please speak up so we will make sure everybody can hear that's on the live stream watching us today. And Mr. Herring, you're next.
Hi, thank you. My name is Rod Herring. I'm a 28-year military veteran, 25 of those years in Air Force Reserve, and 3 of those years in the Navy Reserves as a Navy Seabee. I have 24 years in education, 20 of those years in the classroom. The last 4 of those years has been as a school administrator. I have 2 daughters who graduated from Clay County schools. We've lived in Clay County since 1997. I have 1 grandson who will be attending Oakley Village in the fall, and I just really want to be able to make a difference. I really want to be able to make some changes to what's going on. We need some sound leadership on the board who's willing to talk and negotiate and try to figure out what's going to be needed or what's going to be best for our community. As we continue to grow, one of the things that we have to focus on is how are we going to manage that growth. And we need people who are willing to sit across the table from one another and hash those things out in a respectable manner. I was asked a couple months ago by several teachers to get involved with the school board because they know that when I was in Clay County, as a teacher in Clay County, that I was actively involved in what was going on in Clay County schools. And as an administrator, I learned the insides of what needs to be done. Therefore, as serving on the board, I think I will be able to serve two purposes, and that is one, to be a leader from my military experience, and second, to be someone who understands the ins and outs of both in the classroom and as administrator, so that I can help negotiate or navigate the waters as we continue to grow. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And now, Ms. Bola.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us. There are three key reasons why I am thrilled to be your school board representative in District 4. And all of them have to do with children. When Wayne and I first moved to Clay County 30 years ago, we selected Clay County because of its outstanding schools. Our children attended Ridgeview Elementary, Orange Park Junior High, and Ridgeview High School. Graduated, went on to successful careers. In fact, our daughter is currently a high school teacher in Seminole County, and very proud of what she's accomplishing. The second reason, going back, first and foremost, my personal children. I know that they got a phenomenal education. When I first moved here, I was asked to be the director of admissions at the University of North Florida, and I was willing to do that for a number of years, but I wanted something else. And so in 1999, I became a teacher. I went to Jacksonville University, go Dolphins, and I got my master's degree in teaching so that I could go into the elementary level and work with the children there. In working with children, my second reason, I understand that in working with children, I am trying to provide them with the best, most outstanding education possible. And that education is critical. It's critical not only to their needs, but it's critical to those of their families, those of our community. When you work with the children, they take it home. They know how well they're doing. They know how accomplished they can become. And that strength is theirs. The last reason, with children, education is critical to their safety, to their security, to their futures. We offer an outstanding education here in Clay County. I want to continue working with that education. Thank you.
Thank you for that. That now concludes our opening comments, and now we're going to move into the individual questions. Mr. Knowles, we'll begin with you. You will have 2 minutes to answer this question. It is obvious to even the most casual observer that there is a lot of conflict on the current school board. What needs to be done to mitigate this conflict and promote civility and cooperation in order to get things done?
One of the things that I teach my students in class is that you don't necessarily have to like the people you work with. You don't even necessarily have to agree with everything they say, but you do need to remember what the end goal of whatever project it is you're working on. And in the school board's case, that end goal is the ultimate success of our students. And if we are able to remember that the students that we are representing, the teachers that we are providing resources for, and the administrators that we're supporting are the ultimate end goal of every decision we make, then we can move past those that we may not get along with. We can move past those we may not agree with, and move past those that we might just not like. Teamwork is an effort on everybody's part. In all sports, people play a different role for different reasons at different times. And that role is sometimes to sit back and observe, and sometimes to take the lead and not be afraid to make a difficult decision or a difficult statement, but always with respecting those among the rest of the audience. Again, if we continue to remember who our end goal is, why we were selected to be on the school board, and what we are tasked to do, then we will be able to move past the infighting, past the disagreements, and do what our students, our teachers, and our administrators have tasked us to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Clark?
A lot of what Aaron said obviously is very true. And for whatever reason in my lifetime, whether it be growing up doing every varsity sport possible, moving into, after I received my degree in JU, go Dolphins, into business, it was amazing how many people would come to me and ask advice on how can we get this worked out, because we've got people that are very negative. And I think we've got to have people that are not only willing to work together, even though they're very different in their opinions. We've got to have peacemakers that can come in and hopefully facilitate those to work together. My current position, I've been in real estate for 15 years between St. John's and Clay, and negotiating is something I do every day. And I can tell you, when it comes to homes or personal property, that's probably one of the toughest deals you'll ever run into. It's amazing how little things can just throw it off track. So it's my job as a transaction agent to get people to work together. And I've never had any difficulty with it. I will never bring arrogance to the table. And I just resort to my basic beliefs, and I think there shouldn't be any issue. Our county commission does a great job, and they're very different people, and I think we need to set an example. And we teach our children not to bully, and we don't need to be doing the same thing on the school board. We've got to move ahead.
Thank you. Mrs. Stoddard?
Yes. I thank you for the question, because it will give me a chance to speak about the workings of the school board. At our meeting that we held Tuesday, I was very proud of the board, because even though there was a difference of opinion on the reopening of schools and so forth, we were all able to come together and come to a conclusion in a very level-headed, professional manner. Now, let me say this. 4 of the board members get along very well. We get along with staff very well. Sometimes you have a board member, and in my 28 years on the board, we have had some of these come and go, who creates dissension. I've been chairman of this board for, this is my 9th time as chairman, and we have always worked together. But occasionally you will get a board member who causes dissension and is always finding fault with people. I think that I have handled it in a professional manner. We must treat each other with professionalism, but when someone is out and out attacking you, that's very delicate balance as to whether to clarify things to make sure the truth is known, or whether to sit there and be attacked. But I am proud of the school board. We have a good school board. We need to calm some people down, but I'll do my best to keep going. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Mr. Herring?
Well, first of all, we have to remind ourselves simply, what are we on the board for? Our first responsibility is to be a representative. We've been elected. We have not been just placed on a board. We've been elected. And because we've been elected, we have a responsibility to our constituents, the people that we represent. So we need to first learn how to listen. I think if we listen, I think that would be the key. I think sometimes we have too many things that we're trying to accomplish without actually listening. The wonderful thing about my God is that he gave me one mouth and 2 ears, so therefore he wants me to listen twice as much as he wants me to speak. And I think sometime on the board, we're not listening enough to try to figure out what is the problems, what are the issues, what are we really dealing with, so that we can make those sound decisions. I think that we need to have a foundation in which we judge everything that we do. And part of that foundation should be with our kids and our schools and our communities. We're making decisions that's going to affect all of those things. And so we must have some sort of guide that which we use. I choose, first of all, to choose God first. That is my first responsibility, to make sure that I'm doing what's going to be pleasant to his eyes and his ears. Secondly, what's going to bring honor to my family? What's going to allow my family to be proud of me and the decisions that I make? And then third, my future. I want to make sure that whatever I'm doing is going to be beneficial to the future of not just me, but also the future of my community and the stakeholders in which I represent. I think if we do that, then we would then be able to sit at a table and communicate. Because I don't see why there's an issue if education is the key and we're making decisions. If it adds value to education, then we keep it. If it does not add value to education, then we don't do it. It's just that simple. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Bola?
4 years ago when I joined the board, I was upset with the way that the school district was being run. And my husband encouraged me to do something about it. And so I ran for office. Now, leading up to this, I was a teacher in a 5th grade class. And there was plenty of conflict within that classroom, as you can imagine. Whether it was on the recess field or regarding grades or whatever, there's plenty of conflict. And one of the things that was my responsibility to teach my children was how to resolve conflict, how to work with each other, how to collaborate, how to listen to each other, but not just to each other, but listen to all of the people that have a say in what's going on. So as a school board member, when I stepped into that role, I truly took my classroom with me. And I thought, if I'm working with the children in this way, I should be working with adults in this way as well. And so as decisions came forward and decisions came to the school board, it was important for me to do the research. It was important for me to get into the schools and find out how those curriculums might work in the classrooms. It was important to me to understand how the teachers felt, how the families felt, how the players felt, all of the people who were going to be affected by the decision we were going to be making. Whether it was riding a school bus or talking to the painters, whatever. My decisions were made with forethought. My decisions were made with integrity. And hopefully through that process, I taught my fellow school board members the same.
Thank you for that. And just as a reminder for our candidates, even though I'm asking the questions, there's really no need to, I'm not looking for my own personal answers. Make sure you just face the what would be the audience, because the camera's going to be on you. That way you're looking at them and not looking at me, just as a point. Our next question will begin with you, Mrs. Clark. Okay, we'll begin with you. You have 2 minutes to answer this particular question. We know that we are dealing with the COVID issue throughout our nation, and we have yet to really put that behind us. So the question I have for you is, what do you believe should be the policy regarding wearing masks at school, and what needs to take place in our classrooms to get the students back into those classrooms?
That's a loaded question because there's a million opinions, and it doesn't seem like we have one source that we can go to get the facts. My personal belief is, as far as wearing masks, that should be up to the parent as well as the child. It should not be forced upon them. Constantly, we're told that parents don't get involved. They're not always there to help us make decisions. But if we continue to take away their liberties, then they're not going to be part of it. And I want them to have a say. I think science has taught us many things regarding whether it be good to wear a mask or not. I know in January, Dr. Fauci said it wasn't necessary, and as of last night, he was saying now we need to cover our eyes. So I think all of us need to learn a whole lot more. And as far as the classroom, we've got to find out what the teachers individually need based on the age of the child that they're teaching, and we need to listen. And I think obviously, hand washing has always been a good routine. We also know that the children don't tend to transmit the disease as easily as the adults do. So I think as much as we can get it back to normal for them and away from the computers, because we do know that at a very young age, mentally it has an impact on their health when they're on these computers for way too long. We've got to get them back to where they're comfortable in their social environments, whether it be football games or activities. It's just key.
Thank you. Mr. Stoddard?
That's a very timely question, because at our meeting just 2 nights ago, the board, after much deliberation and discussion, voted that in grades 3 through 12 that masks will be mandatory, except when there can be social distancing. In K through 2, it's strongly recommended for the students to wear masks. Now, there are exceptions to this. If a child has a medical problem and cannot wear a mask, of course, we will deal with that on an individual basis. We also discussed that perhaps in October, re-evaluating the need for masks. We will be watching the COVID numbers. Parents do have a right to speak, and we invited everyone to come and speak Tuesday night, and we've received between 300 and 400 emails about this pro and con. But for the parents who are really afraid for their child to go to school, they do have the virtual options. For those who want to come to brick and mortar, if they will wear a mask where they cannot socially distance, I think it will keep people safer. You know, as a board member, I feel like if I have to err, I'm going to err on the side of caution, because we're dealing with people's lives. These students go home where there are compromised people living in the home. Sometimes they're asymptomatic and they don't know they're carriers. I've got to end here.
Thank you. Mr. Herring?
First of all, that is a very tough question. And I can truly understand, I can see both sides of the coin to determine whether or not, wearing masks or not to wear a mask. I know there are options. There are truly options. And I think one of the things that we have to do is somehow be able to separate ourselves from a personal attack, so to speak. I have a 5-year-old who will be attending Oakleaf Village, and he'll be in kindergarten. And so we're gonna try to get him to wear a mask. Even though it's not required, we're going to try to get him to wear a mask, simply because I believe an ounce of prevention beats a pound of cure. I know that there are other options, that if you don't want your child to wear a mask, where your child can actually do virtual, and I think that's an option for them. I don't like anything that's going to say, oh, you have to do this. However, I want to err on the side of caution, and I want to be able to listen to the experts. And I know the experts, some of their decisions have changed over time, but I think also those decisions change because they learn more information. Now, if the only thing that we're talking about is just wearing a mask, I'm almost like, you know what, that's not going to really hurt just to wear it just in case. Like I say, I'd rather be on the safe side than to have to deal with something that may potentially cause harm or even death to someone or to someone that we care about. This is a tough situation, and I hope that whatever we do, that we do it with fidelity. I know that we can also do other things that may help prevent, as we were pointing out, social distancing and so forth. So I think that is so important for us to try to prevent it in any way we possibly can, even if our kids refuse to wear a mask, because the simple question that always comes up in my mind is that what happens when a child does not wear a mask? What do we do at that point?
Thank you. Mrs. Bola?
This has been a discussion since March 13th, when we were faced with closing the schools. Teachers were lauded and praised as some of the most honorable people in the world because they taught children, and a lot of parents had to realize that they were going to be teaching children at home, and it was difficult. And we've almost come 180 degrees now, where many folks are telling me, well, teachers should be willing to go back to school because our kids want to go back to school. Totally understand that. I have a 4-year-old grandson who just recently went back to his daycare getting ready for VPK, and he was thrilled to see his friends. Thrilled beyond belief. The decisions that we make on the school board affect 43 different schools. It's 43 unique different schools. So sometimes we'll make decisions in a broad paintbrush stroke, like mandating masks for 3rd through 12th grade. And there will be a lot of folks who say, we don't want that. You should be listening to me. We've been listening to loads and loads of people, and they're on both sides of this fence, wearing masks or not wearing masks. I think what we need to realize is that the reopening plan for the school district is what you refer to as a fluid document. And in my explanation the other evening, I spoke about starting the school year with a little bit more stringency, which I normally did as a teacher. I would set the rules, the policies, let's talk about the procedures, let's all work together. As those procedures become more familiar, as perhaps the requirements for masks in our community lessen, then our fluid document can then reflect those same changes within the school district. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Knowles?
As been previously stated, there really is no absolute right answer to this question. If we look back in history, we've encountered difficult decisions that a majority or a minority of our population didn't like. When we were first told you had to wear seatbelts in your car, there were certain people that said, why is it your problem to make me safe or not? When people were first told that you're no longer allowed to smoke inside of a restaurant, those individuals that choose to smoke said, why, what makes it your decision to tell me whether I can do this or not do this? It's my own personal health. Like Mr. Herring said, as our scientists and researchers gain more information about the disease, they're able to either alter or change or solidify previously known beliefs and previously known prevention techniques. So it is a very fluid document, and it is something that I think the school board honestly did a good job of in their decision on Tuesday of understanding the information they have at hand, knowing what we needed to do to get back to normal for the children, for the students and teachers and administrators, but also understanding that if something does come out that is different than what was previously known, we have the ability to take a different course and alter the document. No, there is really no one that likes to wear a mask or wants to wear a mask, but I will steal Mr. Herring's quote where he said an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. That's absolutely correct. I don't like wearing a seatbelt in my car, but I do because if I get into an accident, my life is more safe than if I'm not. So with that said, we just need to understand as we move forward, we gain more information and are able to make better decisions for our students.
Thank you. For our next question, Mrs. Studdard, you will start, and you'll have 2 minutes to answer this question. Due to the current COVID crisis, our families have experienced home-based learning most for the first time. Now that schools are preparing to reopen and looking forward at the continuing growth of the student population, because of the growth in our community and our county. What do you believe is the efficacy of exploring and promoting an optional education model that de-emphasizes the brick and mortar school for a virtual or home-based learning program? Do you think this is a good idea or not, and why?
Boy, thank you for that question. My personal feeling on this is the best case scenario for our students is to be in a brick and mortar school. There's so many things that are learned in school with your interaction with your teachers and your coaches and the other students that cannot be gained from distance learning, virtual education. For some families, though, we must have the option that they can do virtual and distance, but my focus and support will be more for the brick and mortar. But with COVID and all that we're dealing with, we must provide the virtual in a manner that that reaches the students as best we can. But these are difficult times. We're in uncharted waters, and my support and love is for the brick and mortar schools, although virtual is needed. But I think it serves its purpose, and hopefully when COVID's over, we can get back to everybody being at brick and mortar. Right now we have 8,000 students who have chosen to go distance learning for the fall because of the fear of COVID.
Thank you. Mr. Herring?
First of all, I definitely believe brick and mortar is the way to go, simply because when we look at our overall infrastructure, for example, in Clay County, many of the students in many of the areas don't have the necessary means that is required for virtual. I was just speaking to some individuals the other day, and they were saying that in the areas of Clay Hill, the internet service is, for lack of better terms, really spotty, and that they have weak signals, weak service out there. And we know that one of the key elements of any virtual school is, of course, the internet service. And if you don't have that service, it automatically puts you at a disadvantage. Not only that, there's a social aspect of going to school that kids and us all, we learn our boundaries, we learn our place, we learn how we fit in society and how to interact with one another. The last thing I want to do is kind of interact or not have us interact. We were designed to be social. We were designed to interact with each other. And we see this now, that as we hear on television and some of the people speaking, saying that kids are coming up with depression and other social issues that they're coming in contact with, or they're having simply because they haven't had the opportunity to sort of interact and engage with other students. I think that's important. We miss that interaction. Even teachers that I speak with, they tell us that they miss that interaction. Not only that, but to have the onus on parents to be responsible teachers. I know that there's some things they can teach them, but they were not designed to teach them the curriculum that we offer in our schools. Most of our teachers, or all of our teachers, have gone to college at least 4 years and had received a degree, and they're certified, and they've trained in the different skills and technique to teach kids. And I think that would be really rough to try to place that responsibility on just the parents. Thank you.
I realize that some of the questions that have been submitted to us are very detailed. So if we get to you and you want the question to be reread, you're certainly allowed to do that, because this is all about you informing the voters, and we want to be as accommodative as we can to the members on our board today, okay? Ms. Bowley, you're next.
Thank you. In looking at the choices between brick and mortar and virtual, online, whatever you'd like to call it, as I said earlier, we were forced into this situation on March 13th. I want to do a shout out, first of all, to all of the teachers, administrators, and everyone who is able to help parents help their children in educating them during that last quarter of our school year. Did a marvelous job. We're now facing the start of the next school year, and as Ms. Studdard said, we have over 8,000 students, I think it's 8,800 and some, families and students who have selected to do online learning. When they make that selection, they are making that commitment. And what we are trying to do is help them in any way possible. We've purchased numerous opportunities for teachers to help them within the school. We've helped from the school to the home so that students can have their teacher be assigned to their home school and help themselves in many respects in that way. They will be attending school. They will be using what we call hotspots. We've purchased many of them for areas that don't offer good or sustainable, shall we say, internet service. We've also purchased a number more of Chromebooks, many of which we either were broken during the early part of this pandemic or just simply needed to be replaced. Those are the sorts of things that the visionaries within our county were looking forward to so that we would have everything we would need, whether it would be in the school or in the online learning opportunity. Teachers and parents, many teachers and parents are anxious. And giving teachers the opportunity to teach online as well as giving parents the opportunity to keep their children at home is the most important thing.
Thank you. Mr. Knowles?
I don't think there's any doubt that a brick and mortar opportunity for students is much more advantageous than learning from home. I've been able to teach in a bachelor's degree program both online and in the classroom, and from a teacher's perspective, I feel as if I'm much more effective in the classroom because you have the personal interaction. You can, look someone in the eyes and really see if they understand the concept that you're teaching them. And they also have the opportunity to learn from their peers and communicate things that you're just not able to do at home. Even if you're on a Zoom call, it's difficult because one person has to stop talking for the other person to be heard. And we've all been in conference calls or Zoom meetings where 3 people are talking at once and it's just ineffective, and you really don't learn that way. Also, there are things that are taught in the brick and mortar schools that simply can't be taught at home. In elementary schools, children are taught, get in line, be patient, follow the person in front of you, wait, listen. You can't do that at home. They are taught how to deal with uncomfortable situations on the playground. They're taught how to make friends that they normally wouldn't interact with in their neighborhood. These are things that you cannot teach online. While distance learning has now become a necessity for our students, I think we still need to do everything we possibly can to get the students back into the classroom so they have that social interaction, so they are not getting depressed, so we don't have child obesity problems because they're not outside playing. They see their friends and they interact. Those are issues that are going to happen if we continue to keep children at home, but I understand the parents that want to keep their children safe as well. So moving toward brick and mortar, I think, is the best idea, but I think we're doing as much as we can right now with the options that we've been provided.
Thank you. Mrs. Clark?
As everyone else has said, brick and mortar is key. Listening to parents, many of them have actually mentioned that they may do homeschooling. And we don't even know how many of those are serious and will continue in the public education system, or whether they will actually homeschool. This has been horrendous for the parents and the teachers, and kudos go out to every one of them. I don't know how the parents are doing it when they have multiple aged children and trying to work. The other issue, and I honestly can understand why we have so many ESE positions open that need to be filled. I don't know how the ESE teachers are doing it or are going to do it. That, to me, we've really got to focus and listen and find out what their needs are, because they are so special in many ways. And I think that pretty much sums it up. I think we're all in agreement, basically.
Okay, thank you. For our next question, Mr. Herring, we'll start with you first. You have 2 minutes to give your thoughts on the following question. Now, still looking at continuing growth of the student population and alternative education approaches, certain school programs have been denied to charter schools. What are your beliefs regarding charter schools, and should those students be allowed to participate more fully in Clay County school sports and activities? What are your thoughts, whether you agree with charter schools or not, and why?
Well, first of all, charter schools are public schools, and I fully understand that. I do believe that we should follow the letter of the law. If the law gives us guidelines and tells us that these schools can enter into the county, and the people who develop these schools into the county the way in which they're supposed to through a charter and so forth and so on, then they should be given all the rights entitled to them by the law. I don't think we should do anything out of the ordinary to make them have an advantageous position when it comes to school, but we should be able to provide them with what we're required to provide them with. We have a responsibility not only to our schools that are regular public schools, but we also have responsibility to those schools that come in under the charter program and come in the right way, because those still are our students, and those students provide, those parents and the population provides taxpayers' dollars to help pay for all the resources in which those students receive while they're at work. However, I do feel that a parent has the opportunity to choose whatever school they want to send their child to. I just hope that whatever school they go to, that school has standards. That school has things in which the students are going to be prepared once they finish those different programs. One of the things I do worry about when it comes to schools other than normal public schools is how are we dealing with the ESE population when we go to these private schools? Do we manage them? Do we follow the letter of the law? ESE students require a specific IEP, and if those IEPs are not being followed, then we're not necessarily doing what we're supposed to do. So I think if it's a charter school, it's a public school, as long as the students are doing and reaching the standards that they're supposed to meet, I'm perfectly fine with that.
Thank you. Mrs. Bola?
When I was teaching and charter schools started becoming more popular, this was a number of years ago, one of my greatest concerns as a teacher was seeing so much of the public tax dollar go to charter schools that were for profit. And I can honestly say that a for-profit charter school is not one that I'm not in favor of that. We do not have any of those in Clay County. We have 3 charter schools in Clay County. And as I recall, going to those school board meetings, I was not on the board at the time when they were approved, the charter schools were approaching the board and suggesting that they offered a different curriculum to what was available within the Clay County schools. And having visited all of the charter schools, the 2 brick and mortar and the online, it was pretty much evident that they do offer something different in many respects. And the bottom line was that it was a parental choice. It's a parent's choice as to what type of education their child will have. And I agree with that. My husband and I chose to send our children to public schools because we felt that was the best opportunity for them. And from my perspective, it still is. So what do we do as a public education system to either encompass those charter schools or provide for parents who want a different choice? We provide different programs. Hence the Career Technical Education Program. There are loads of programs available within that. There are many programs available within the elementary schools. We started a Montessori program so that families would have that opportunity. The bottom line, charter school students are eligible to participate in band, athletics, any program that they care to participate in at their home school. There's no problem with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Knowles?
I think one of the great things about living in our country is that we have options. We can choose which denomination church we want to attend. We can choose where we want to eat. We can choose where we want to live, etc. And I think the same pertains to education. The parents ultimately have the right to decide which school they would like their children to go to. And if they do their research, then they're able to make an informed decision and decide whether the curriculum at a charter school is what's best for their child, or if the curriculum at a certain high school is what's best for their child, etc. Each of our high schools has a different specialty that they focus on: banking, early childhood education, aerospace, and others. And our parents have the opportunity to figure out which one of those options best suits their child. Allowing those charter school students the opportunity to participate in extracurricular activities at their home school is also a good idea. Homeschool children have the same option. If they want to participate in football and their charter school doesn't have a football program, they should be able to go to the local high school and play football, whichever is nearest their house. Charter schools have a purpose. If they're following, as others have said, the letter of the law and teaching the students what the Department of Education has decided to teach them, they have the right to do so. We live in a free country, and that's why our parents have the opportunity to make a decision, because it's up to them ultimately where their children go.
Mrs. Clark?
I am most certainly for charter schools. I think overall we do have budgeting issues that we have to deal with. And with my business experience, I can't tell you how many hundreds of budgets I've worked on and forecasted for years out. It's like with the virus, as things change, as our community changes, we can tweak. But I think that we need to be trying to get our public schools as desirable as our charter schools, and we need that competition. I don't think there's many people that disagree with that, listening to the public. I mean, we came here, as Aaron was saying, for choice in Clay County, because Clay County used to be the county you came to for schools, not necessarily to live in Fleming Island, because Fleming Island hasn't been around that long. But you came here for the schools, and we need to do everything possible to bring our public schools up to where the parents want their children to go to those public schools. And as far as extracurricular activities, as everyone has said, you have that freedom in our public schools for the charter schools to use those facilities. But I think it's a wonderful thing, and I hope that we continue, even with our career and tech programs, to expand on that as we grow.
Thank you. Mrs. Stoddard?
Would you repeat the question?
Sure, absolutely.
I think we've kind of gotten all over the place.
Sure, absolutely. Now looking at continuing growth of the student population because of the influx of people coming into our county and alternative education approaches, certain school programs have been denied to charter schools. What are your beliefs regarding charter schools, and should these students be allowed to participate more fully in the Clay County sports and activities? What's your opinion on that, and why?
Okay. I have no problem with charter schools. There's a very rigorous application process that they go through, and it has to be approved by the state that they meet the requirements that are needed to successfully have a well-run charter school. I believe that parents certainly have the right to choose to homeschool, go to charter school, or a traditional public school. The one thing is that people need to understand that, as one of the other people said, charter schools by law are public schools, and some people just do not understand that. For instance, when we started the police department, the charter schools get a portion of that too, so that they can keep their students safe in their school. The ones that we have here in Clay County are well run and have been doing well. We have excellent charter schools, and we have excellent public schools. I am just so proud of our schools and the programs that we have for the students, whether it be IB or Cambridge or ACE or some of the career and tech ed departments. I mean, there's room for everyone, and I think we all need to work together. The one thing that I feel strongly about is that when the legislature makes laws and allocates funds, the traditional public schools need to be on a level playing field with the charter schools, and they should be treated the same. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Okay, for our next question, we will start with Ms. Bola. Okay, you'll be up first, and you have 2 minutes to answer this question. Some claim that the school system currently has contributed toward a societal shift where a growing number of young people express a dislike or hatred towards their country and have a positive view of socialism and would like to see the federal government to have more authority to implement progressive goals. Explain, if anything, what could be done to better teach our students how to love their country and be good Americans.
It's an interesting question because I think that question reflects the country as a whole and what we are seeing perhaps in many of our different cities. I don't know that that necessarily reflects Clay County's education system. Because as a former teacher here again, and I'm sitting back thinking that pledge every morning is critical. And the students take it incredibly seriously. We live in what many term a Navy town. Our students and many of our children know what it means to be part of a program that supports the country in so many ways and defends our country. Our strength in our civics program, as children get older and are in the history classes and social studies classes, the civics classes provide students a better understanding of how our country was founded. And if anything, in strengthening those areas, I believe Governor DeSantis has made a number of steps in that direction. That's going to provide our children with the understanding of what our country was founded on, the importance of being Americans. Yes, there's the opportunity for free speech. However, there's also a responsibility for maintaining our country and for celebrating our history in so many ways. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Knowles?
I agree with Ms. Bola in saying that I don't necessarily think that this pertains to Clay County schools. One of the reasons why, all of us have mentioned at some point, one of the reasons why we live in Clay County is because not only the school system is very good, but it's a safe place to live. It's a good place to raise a family. One of my hobbies or second jobs is I officiate high school football and baseball. Before every game, every single game, no matter where it's played, the national anthem is played. And that happens without fail every time. Ms. Bullock mentioned saying the Pledge of Allegiance before every class. Every school board meeting I've watched, they say the Pledge of Allegiance before class. Us being so close to two naval bases and an Army Reserve, National Guard Reserve base shows that our community understands the importance of country and the importance of why we're here and the importance of democracy and freedom. One of the things that I think has impacted this is social media and the fact that our children don't learn how to fact check. They simply read something and take it for granted because it was on the internet. And one of the challenges that we have all as parents is to teach our children how to fact check and make sure that everything is correct in what they're reading. And it's the parents' responsibility to make sure the students and their children understand the importance of America and the importance of why we live here and not move toward, as you said, forced socialism and mandated federal government control.
Thank you. Mrs. Clark?
I agree with Mary Bola in the sense that Clay has always been very conservative. That's why many people come here. Unfortunately, we have a lot of people in order to vote who will change their party, but that's beside the point. We are very conservative, and we have to maintain our students in an environment where they're comfortable asking both sides of whatever they hear, and that they're taught the truth. And as a lover of history, I may have lived it, but my son learned excellent history in Clay County schools. I can say I feel like he knows far more than I do. Very impressed with what he was taught through the ACE program and classes prior to that. But bring it on. I mean, we need to, if children continue to follow Google and think that it's the end all, and every information, every bit of information out there is correct, it is our responsibility, as Aaron was saying, to instruct them that that's not the case. They need to look further. DeSantis has done a great job in pushing the BEST program, which hopefully will take the place of Common Core. I'm not sure it goes far enough, but at least it provides civics once again. And you hear other larger areas that are actually talking about the 1619 program, which is frightening from what I've read of it so far. Frightening to anybody that appreciates history, and the old saying, if we don't learn it, we're bound to repeat it. So I think Clay County, obviously we could change overnight, but we have to know how to deal with it and how to instruct our students to fact check and find the truth.
Thank you. Mrs. Stutter?
I have to say right up front, I'm so proud of Clay County. We have NAS Jacks right here. A lot of our students have military parents. The first thing I thought of when you asked the question was my middle daughter had a gentleman when she was at Orange Park High School. Her teacher was a man who's now deceased, former commissioner, Larry Lancaster. She, to this day, and she's an attorney today, but she said that she learned more about government and how everything works from this man. She gives him full credit for it, and I still remember that. But I think we do a really good job in Clay County in instilling patriotism in our students. One event I went to 2 or 3 years ago was about the Holocaust. It was taught by an excellent teacher at Orange Park High School, and it was a play, a presentation, and it brought me to tears. It brought the horrors of what has happened in the past. We have history teachers, we have government teachers, civics teachers who are doing an excellent job, and I feel like in Clay County is unlike counties that are much more liberal. I think our school system is doing an excellent job, but I don't worry about us so much as other areas in the country.
Thank you. Mr. Herring?
Can you repeat the question for me, please?
Absolutely. So many claim that the school system has contributed heavily towards a societal shift where a growing number of young people express dislike or hatred toward their country, have a positive view of socialism, and would like to see the federal government to have more authority to implement progressive goals. What do you think could be done better to teach our students how to love their country and be good Americans?
Well, first of all, I agree and I disagree with some of the comments that was being made. Not because I feel like our county is not doing an amazing job when it comes to teaching our kids. Personally, I have a personal experience with this. I've taught social sciences for 20 years, and at the high school level. And at the high school level, it is a different perspective. You know, we do Constitution Week, you know, but we focus on the Constitution. We take the opportunity to really try to show them how our government works. You know, we do it through, whether it's through a civics course, whether it's through American government. You know, we do that, and we try our best to try to instill in them all the values, all the things that our country was founded upon. And I think for the most part, we do a good job. However, my experience is that when you, in a homeroom classroom, when you have 20, 25 high school students in the classroom, sometimes it's difficult to get the kids to even stand up and say the pledge. We do our best. I know in elementary school, they get up, they do it, they have no problem. But somewhere along the lines, in junior high, high school, they get to the point where they feel like, oh, I don't want to do this. Oh, why do we have to say this every morning? I know this. I'm tired of saying this. Now, I truly believe that we should try to instill in them all of those things, because as citizens of this great country, we have a right and a responsibility. And part of that right and responsibility is to learn our history and to truly understand our history. One of the things I was disappointed with the other day, I heard a young lady say in a comment that we won the war. And I said, which war are you talking about? She said the Civil War. And she said, yeah, the South won the war, so we won the war. And I was thinking, I wish you were in my class. So I still feel like we do need to make some changes, and I know the county is growing, and we're going to have to really make some changes to make sure we keep that.
Okay, thank you. The next question, we'll start with Mr. Knowles. And this really is a yes or no answer to the question, but we'll give you 30 seconds if you want to give some amplifying information, of course. So the question is, are you in favor of the half-cent sales tax increase for education on the November ballot?
I am in favor of it because I believe it has been transparent to the community what those dollars are going to be used for, and that they're going to be used for the growth and maintenance of our current school system.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Clark?
No, I am not in favor of it, and I'm still reviewing the budget and trying to see where we've been spending our money. Many teachers feel like we have additional overhead that we don't need, shouldn't have gotten, needs to go away, and other issues. So until the budget is totally reviewed, with the impact fees coming in with 30,000 new homes, thousands of dollars, and that money was earmarked to build schools, we just need to review what we've got.
Thank you. Mrs. Studdard?
Yes, I am in favor of it. With the Outer Beltway coming, we're going to need at least 5 new schools. We have a little over $300 million in renovation and repair and remodeling that we must do. I realize the pandemic is the worst time to try to have this sales tax on the ballot, but we can't stop the Outer Beltway, and we can't stop air conditioners from breaking. So it's needed, and we will do a public plan
Thank you.
to let people know.
Thank you. Mr. Herring?
Yes, I am in favor of half-cent sales tax, simply because it is equitable in a sense, considering property tax and so forth may not always be equitable. And not only that, but by the time we receive some of those taxes or those fees that are coming from impact fees, the schools and so forth, those money will already be needed, and that would not give us enough time to actually prepare properly for it. And so I'm definitely in favor of a half-cent sales tax, even though I don't want any taxes, but if we have to, I'd rather sell tax.
Thank you. Mrs. Bola?
I am in favor of it. It took us 10 years to collect impact fees in order to build Discovery Oaks Elementary for free. We don't have 10 years. The Outer Beltway, the First Coast Expressway is being built. We have many, many more people moving into our communities. It's 75 cents a week. And from my perspective, our children are worth 75 cents a week. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question that was submitted to us, and Mrs. Clark, we'll start with this question. Okay, it has a couple parts to it, so I'm going to read it, and then we'll allow you to answer the first part, and then we'll go back and do it again, and allow you to answer the second part, so that you can be as specific as you want to. For this first question, though, it'll just be 30 seconds because it's in line with the previous question that we just asked you. So 2 years ago, a millage increase was approved to provide an additional funds for the school to use for the students and for other services. Those other services turned out to be health insurance for the teachers and a new school police force. And this rate is set to sunset in 2 more years. So again, Ms. Clark, this is 30 seconds. With property appraisals continuing to increase, are you in favor of renewing the millage increase when the sunset arrives?
I think we have to look and see where we're at in 2 years, but right now I can say no. I still believe that we should have been able to negotiate with the sheriff's office, and it should be under the sheriff's office. I think people are very upset when they see the cars that are sitting there with no miles being put on them. Anyway, sorry, time's up.
That's okay. That's all right. Ms. Studdard?
Repeat that.
Sure. So 2 years ago, there was a millage increase, which is approved to provide for additional funds for the school and for education, and for the students and for other services. Those other services turned out to be health insurance for the teachers and the school board, school police force. This millage increase is set to a sunset in 2 years. So with property appraisals continuing to increase, are you in favor of renewing the millage increase once it's up for sunset?
I think that I don't have a set opinion on that right now. I think that I'll see what it looks like when we get closer to making that decision. I want to clear up something about the police force. We have received some criticism about that. I would love to have an opportunity to explain that the sheriff would not negotiate with us. I met with him personally for 2 or 3 hours. He would not come down a nickel. He was overcharging us more than any other sheriff in the state of Florida. I can explain details if I had time.
You're going to enjoy the next question then, because that's where I'm going next. So you'll have time for that. Absolutely. Yep. Mr. Herring?
I feel like we have a responsibility, a fiscal responsibility, to be good stewards of our tax dollars. And at the time, the sheriff department, as you pointed out, was not necessarily being fair to the school district to try to help support our schools and keep our schools safe. And so therefore, we made a decision, or they made a decision, that we had to deal with. The biggest travesty, I think, is that we didn't give the opportunity to help our teachers with their benefits. I thought that's something that we missed the boat on, and that's something that we should have taken care of for our teachers.
Thank you. Mrs. Bola?
As a voter, I would vote for it again in 2 years, but it's really up to the electorate to determine if we're going to have that millage again. We do use this money for safety and security first and foremost. The additional money, not additional, but part of that money did go to health benefits for teachers and staff. And if, as a personal voter, I would vote in favor of it again. But as I said, it's up to the electorate.
Thank you. Mr. Knowles?
Now that I know what the second question is, I can focus on the first one. In 2 years, I think it's going to be interesting because previously that rate was negotiated due to, I don't think there's any secret, there was friction between the superintendent and the sheriff, and they made the best informed decision they could at the time. I think the upcoming election in November will decide how that relationship's going to move forward. To answer the original question, I am not in favor of renewing the millage rate increase because I think we could do a better job of moving our tax dollars around to different places.
Thank you. So this is the second part for this question. Mrs. Studdard, you will start with you first. But I'm going to review it all and then get to the specific that you can speak to. So you'll have 2 minutes to answer this particular part of the question. So 2 years ago, a millage increase was approved to provide an additional funds to the school for use for students and for other services. Those other services turned out to be health insurance for the teachers and a new school police force. And this increase is set to sunset in 2 years. So now we have you on record of whether you think that's a good idea to sunset or whether you'll vote to, or if you think it should be approved again. The question specific now is the candidates that we had before we brought you in was our candidates for sheriff. And we asked them specifically about safety of our schools and asked them specifically about working with the school board and also about the school police force. All of them agree that they are more than happy to work with the school board and the superintendent, whoever that might be, to do what is best for the community and best for the safety of our students. The question that I have for you, these candidates here, is do you believe that the school police force was a good idea? Should it be kept? And if it is kept, if you think it should be kept, how we're going to pay for it? And would you be willing to renegotiate with the Clay County Sheriff's Office to maybe see if they want to provide that service that's now being provided by your current force?
Oh, I could take 30 minutes to answer all the parts to that question. I tell you, no. All right, let's back up. When after Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, we had to deal with the law that we had to have safety in our schools. We had the board, the superintendent, no one really was talking about forming our own police force. What we found out in investigating is we were paying the sheriff's office $101,500 for each and every safety officer we had. We looked around the state. The average cost for school districts was 70, 75, sometimes 80,000. We have a agreement with the town of Orange Park and with the town of Green Cove Springs, and they charge us a fair price. They have worked with us diligently. Members of the superintendent, staff, and the superintendent sat down and tried to negotiate with the current sheriff. I met the current sheriff myself for 2 or 3 hours over lots of cups of coffee. I thought we had an agreement made so that we could work together and go on. He gave me his word. We shook hands. 3 days passed, and he had not done anything that he told me he was going to do. So all bets were off. He would not lower his $101,500, not 1 cent. So here we are, having to have safety in our schools. I can't get to all of these parts of your question, but it was a necessity, and so we have done the best we can with the money, and in the long run, we're going to save a whole lot of money.
Thank you. Mr. Herring?
Can you repeat the question one more time to make sure?
Sure. So this is a two-part question that was submitted to us, and the first part is the millage, which we've gone over several times, and you are all on record on what you think should happen there. When the school got the increased funds, they were used for other services, and one of those other services was to provide security for the school. We had the sheriffs on before you, and we asked them this same question about security of the schools, and they all agreed that they want to work with the school board and the new school superintendent, whoever that may be, to either support you if you keep the police force that you have, or if you want to renegotiate and use the sheriff's office, they want to support you in any way possible. What we're looking from you in this particular question is, do you believe that the school board police force was a good idea, and should it be kept? And if it is going to be kept, considering that there's millage issues that we've already talked about, how do you think you should pay for it? And are you willing, if you get elected, to renegotiate with the Clay County Sheriff's Office to provide for these services?
First of all, I think that I think the school board did a great job when it came to trying to decide what's going to be best to make sure that we meet those mandates that were placed upon us in our county. It is a difficult task. I know personally that things just don't automatically drop in price and go down. And I know that if it's $101,000 or if it's $106,000 per sheriff deputy that will be in our schools, that price is not going to go down. It's not going to continue to just drop. And as we talk about the growth that's going to come in our county, the sheriff is going to need more deputies. They're going to need more people to help secure our borders. And that price is going to continue to grow up because the sheriff deputies are going to also need more money. I think that the school board had taken an opportunity to invest in something that's going to pay long-term dividends. I know people complain about vehicles and how they're being used and what are they doing over the summer. Well, the same question could be asked. What would the sheriff department do over the summer? Well, what the sheriff department would do is that they would go back in the community and work for the sheriff department, and the schools would be left alone. We all know that during the summertime, there's a large amount of vandalism and other things that take place at our schools. We also know that there's training and athletic events and other activities that are taking place at a school, and our schools still need protection. So I know that on the surface, it may appear that, yes, we're wasting money setting up or establishing a school department. But I think when we, as a whole, look at it and see what's going to happen in the future, it will be an investment in which we can secure a safe environment for our school that's going to last for generations to come, rather than just having something that's temporary, because that means every couple of years we will have to be renegotiating with whoever becomes sheriff or whoever is still in office as sheriff to see what we can do to make sure we provide safety for our schools.
Thank you. Mrs. Bola?
I was trying to make notes on all of the parts of the question. Bottom line, and
Do you want me to repeat it again?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay.
The first word that came to mind was communication, and the opportunity to work together. At any point, as a school board member, I would welcome the opportunity to work together with all of the other offices within the county, no matter what that decision is, no matter how those decisions play together, and we do that. This was one of those situations where I believe the communication failed. And we were required to set up an opportunity to have an armed person in every one of our schools, which we hadn't had prior to that. We had only had sheriff's deputies, SROs, in the junior highs and the high schools, and all of a sudden we had to go to all 43 of our schools and make certain that we had someone available and ready to work and ready to defend our schools and and to protect our children. What the choices that we made, I will stand behind forever. They were sound financial decisions. People told us, oh, you're not going to be able to stand up a police department, and we were able to with, by the way, experienced officers that were coming to us from a variety of different backgrounds, and they are strong officers. We've experienced throughout the school year a reduction in some of the activities that students had participated in prior to this, and in addition, we've been able to help so many families and so many students understand the law enforcement side of things and to reach out to those folks for help and for support. And to me, that's critical. Would I want to continue this if given the opportunity with the sheriff's office to renegotiate? There has to be a lot of communication involved. We've invested a lot in this, and it's not necessarily just the personnel, but it's also the hardening of the schools, and that's something that we will have to continue to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Knowles?
First of all, I find it encouraging that each of the candidates for sheriff say that they're willing to negotiate and work with all aspects of the school system to make it the best and safest environment for the students. Secondly, I know part of the money you said went to safety and security of the schools. All of the schools that my daughters went to were multiple entry schools where there was easily at least 4 to 5 ways to get onto campus without being known that you're on campus. Now, all the schools are single entry schools. They've put fences around the open area schools. They've made sure that you have to go through the office and sign in before you enter. So that money's been spent. I think if we are able to negotiate with the sheriff's office, improve the communication that they have, and understand that we can both provide armed officers in every school and increase the number of deputies that our sheriff's office has, we won't need to increase the millage rate, and we can still keep those dollars going to help the teachers with their benefits, because that is one of the great aspects of what the increase did in the past. So with the negotiations, communication, and being able to work together, we will accomplish all those things that we need: safety of our students, benefits for our teachers, and a reduction in the millage rate.
Thank you. Mrs. Clark?
Overall, obviously, we'll see in 2 years where we're at. And yes, it was a given that it was a state requirement. And I think it's wonderful that our police actually are in school, and we need to stop giving their titles fluffy names. We need to respect them as policemen, as men in blue, and we need to teach our children not to fear a gun. We need to, just as many of them are learning about socialism, we need to stop this, that guns are evil. It gives us, the policemen in the school, a chance to educate any child that they come in contact with and to help them understand their role and how important it is. Too many parts to the question, if I can remember. Obviously, yes, willing to renegotiate, and my biggest complaint with having it separate is that, and this is the accountant in me, we're just duplicating admin, that if it were with the Clay Sheriff's Office, who is, my understanding, doing the training, then, you know, we don't have that duplication. So that's my big issue with it.
Okay, thank you for that. This is the final question before we move to your closing comments. So we're almost there. For this last question, Mr. Herring, we will start with you. You will have 2 minutes to answer this final question. In recent years, schools across the country have emphasized college prep curriculum and moved away from what, and we're going to show our age here, what we would call the old vocational programs. Now college grads can't get jobs while high-paying positions for electricians, plumbers, construction workers, welders go unfilled because there's not enough trained workers. We had a article submitted to us of a young man who dropped out of college after just completing a little bit, got a welder's degree, and had a job making $120,000 a year, and the young man was only 21 years old. So I don't know about you, but I didn't make $120,000 at 21 years old. So the point is with that in mind, what should the school board do to provide what I think is now called Career Ready Pass to ensure the graduates can earn a living? Do you support or not support the Career Ready Pass? And if you do support, what's your thoughts on increasing these programs if that's where you'd like to go?
Yes, I do support that, definitely. You know, there's a saying that said that, you know, college is not for everyone. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it's a great opportunity. I enjoyed it. It was for me, but it's not for everyone. Some people would really just rather work with their hands. They would rather get out there and have some sort of blue-collar job where they can actually get out there and physically do work, and they can make a good living at it. I think we have a responsibility to teach our kids how to think critically so that when they are making decisions, they can make decisions that are going to benefit their life and their lifestyle. I tell my daughters all the time when they're making decisions, I say, you know, I know college may not be for everyone, and I know that I have a daughter, one that went to college and one did not go to college, and I tell them all the time, just make sure you stay relevant. Make sure you stay relevant in whatever you're doing, because when you're relevant in whatever you're doing and you enjoy what you're doing, the money's going to come. I think we have a responsibility to give our students an opportunity to see different avenues in which they can go to make money. I know it's important, especially here in the state of Florida. I appreciate it so many times. Just like I was just telling Ms. Studdard a few minutes ago, earlier this summer, my AC went out. And I know that the amount of money they charge me, they're getting paid. They're making more money than I'm making. So I really do appreciate that. And I think we should give students those opportunities, and those opportunities should be given to them early. I applaud them. I've always thought it'd be a great idea for us to actually start a business, not necessarily a business program for business, but a entrepreneurship program where students can actually work on something starting in 9th grade, and by the time they're in their senior year, they can be putting together a business plan that possibly, if they decide, once they graduate from school, they can roll that business plan into an actual business. So I'm definitely in favor of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Bola?
Very much in favor of career and technical education. We have a phenomenal program in career and technical education. As I've said earlier, coming out of the elementary school, there was a lot that I had to learn about the junior high and high school programs, and I was not aware of some of the programs that we offer, whether it was, you know, some of them I knew about. The building programs I knew about because I lived in a portable for about 17 years, and one of them was actually built by students at Middleburg High School. So I knew about many of those programs. However, what I was not familiar with was all of the certifications available for students. I was not available for the apprenticeships available to students. I was not available, I was not, as I didn't understand all of the programs that are available. And one of the concerns that I have is the more we can encourage students to look at what is available in the high school, the junior high through the high school, whether it's working at the ViStar campus on the ViStar office on campus, or whether it's working through the automotive program at Orange Park, getting students as involved as possible and getting their hands on and understanding what's available to them in high school so that when they graduate from high school, they have a job in hand. They've got that apprenticeship already started. There are a number of programs that we do to encourage students to go out and look and see what is available. And what's awesome is that the construction industry within Northeast Florida sets up a number of days, and they literally pay to have our students bused to the Duval County, I can't remember the name of it. I want to say fairgrounds, but it's not the fairgrounds, equestrian center, and show the students exactly what's available to them in high school. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Knowles?
I am absolutely in full support of the career and technical programs, and I believe that expanding them is the best idea for our schools. For years, we've heard college graduates say, I can't find a job because I don't have the experience, but I do have the education. Or we hear from people who are not college graduates saying, I can't get the job because I have the experience, but I don't have the education. Well, these career and technical programs offer students both the experience and the education, so when they're seeking employment, they have both and are ready to get into the workforce and become taxpayers and benefiting to the betterment of our society immediately. As been previously mentioned, we have several programs that are available to students right now. The ViStar banking program at Flemington High School, the automotive program at Orange Park, the construction program at Middleburg. The Northeast Florida Builders Association offers an apprenticeship program where the students get their apprenticeship and certifications for free, and by the time they graduate, they're ready to enter the workforce. So we've seen the same trend in higher education for the past 20 years. College is not for everyone. I agree with Mr. Herring. But all of our students should have the opportunity to decide what is for them. Maybe welding is for them, as the example you used earlier. Maybe cosmetology school is for them. Pharmacy tech, whatever it is, they get the opportunity to decide earlier in life than they did previously. In high school, they can decide what their future should look like, what they would like it to look like, and then seek that education earlier than previously been able to.
Thank you. Mrs. Clark?
Excuse me, absolutely in favor of the career and technical programs that we've got. I have the opportunity, working in St. John's as well as Clay, to share that with many customers. We've got a very unique program that not even St. John's, I feel, can compare to. Big fan of Michael Rowe. I watch construction daily, and it's sad that we've come to the point we don't have enough people. And it's our responsibility, just as it is for somebody who's going into the military or wants to go to college, to help them find funds, help them achieve grants and such. It's also our responsibility to have them learn a career path that may be very different, and it may be as an electrician. I know they basically some of the most successful people I know do not have a college degree, and they're doing quite well, quite smart, much smarter than I am, and I just think it's key that we continue to expand on that. We do, like I said, with construction and other areas, we have a real need. And many people coming into this area haven't been able to get the home they were promised in the time frame they were promised because we don't have the workers. And that's what it amounts to. And if Clay can achieve that goal ahead of everybody else, it's another driving force for people to want to live in Clay County.
Thank you. Mrs. Stutter?
It's almost like I could say ditto to the other fours. Of course, I strongly support career and technical education. We have so many wonderful programs, whether they are going into the banking field, by having hands-on experience with the credit union in our high school, two or three high schools. Every year, the Haskell Corporation has a breakfast or luncheon to honor those that have received certifications, and I have seen young men and women there who I have learned later have moved on up in the company they chose to go to work with, and they have made quite successful careers. I am so proud of even things like our culinary students who want to be chefs. I mean, there's such a variety of different avenues that our students can attend to learn their skill or their trade. It should be strongly supported because some of our students do go to the military, some go to college, but there's a world out there of golden opportunity if they will take advantage of one of our programs in career and tech ed.
Thank you so much. So that now concludes the questions for our candidates. And now we'll move into our 2-minute close. Just so you'll know, when I was reviewing the questions, what came to mind was that had much rather be here than where you are, because I thought these questions were very pointed. Some of them had multiple parts. But just so you know that when the Liberty Caucus was putting the questions together, we did not reach out to groups because we felt that groups tend to have an agenda, and we didn't want even an appearance of an agenda. What we did is we reached out to parents who currently have children in the school system, hence the questions of the civility of the board and the career path. We reached out to family members who were in charter schools, hence the questions of how can my child do other activities that they're not allowed to do. And then we reached out to parents who don't have kids in schools, and they tend to be focused on the taxes and the millage. And so that's where how we came up with the questions of what was submitted to us. But all of you did very well, and like I said, much rather be here than where you are today, okay? So now, since we started with you first on the open, Ms. Bola, we'll start with you on the close. This is a 2-minute close. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, and thanks again for having us today. And I agree, the questions were excellent, and they approached a number of different topics that were not necessarily asked on a day-to-day basis. I wanted to give you a reason why should you vote for Mary Bola. Having been a teacher, having had children go through the Clay County school system, having been involved in so many different ways in the district, I feel that my experience has been phenomenal in approaching a job that I've grown to love. I've been in a new job technically for the last 4 years, 3 years, counting a few more months. And one of the things that I've learned, when I left the classroom on November 18th in 2016, I told my children in the classroom that I was leaving them, the 24 of them, to work for the 39,000 that were part of the Clay County School District. And I've never looked back, and I believe truly that I've met the promise that I gave those children. I'm an independent school board member. I was supported by the union 4 years ago. I'll admit it. I was a union member when I was a teacher. However, the decisions that I made over these last 4 years have been made with integrity. I've looked at all of the options. I've looked at all of the various decisions that needed to be made, and I sought as much information as possible prior to making those decisions. Many of the decisions that we make on the school board are not easy, obviously, but what I find important is that we communicate. We reach out and get as much information as possible. And with that in mind, I want to continue using what I've learned for the next 4 years. I would appreciate your vote. Mary Bola, School Board. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Herring?
First of all, I want to say thank you again to you, the moderator, and of course the caucus, and of course the panel up here. Those questions were amazing. However, I do want to say that my experience has prepared me for this particular role. And I think that if you want someone who's willing to make the tough decisions, someone who's willing to sit down and negotiate and talk and communicate and be transparent about the things that we're doing, then you should choose Rod Herring. I say this because I wouldn't be here if there was civility on our school board. There's been a lot of back and forth on our school board, to be honest. You've seen it. I don't have to tell you. You see it in meetings and so forth. And just know that just because someone supports you, that does not mean that you think the same way that they think. I am my own individual. I think the way that my mind and my experience and my beliefs have led me to think. And I'm here to be your education wingman. A wingman because I want to be someone who's there with you, someone to help support you and get the ideas and thoughts and things that you think are important to the table so that we can talk and discuss those things. I've been in the classroom for 20 years. I've worked at just about every grade level. I think I'm probably the only one on the panel that can say that they've been in the kindergarten classroom all the way to a 12th grade senior classroom, as well as who's been in the ESC department, as well as been an administrator and a teacher for over 20 years. I've taught at elementary schools, I've taught at junior high schools, and I've taught at the high schools. I've led not only from the front, I led from the back, and I also led in the middle. So if you really want someone who's going to be an advocate for your voice, for your children, whether they are general education or they're ESE, Rod Herring is the person you need to vote for August 18. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Stutter?
I so appreciate the opportunity to be able to come before you today to solicit your vote for Carol Stutter, District 2 on the Clay County School Board. Being on the school board has been my passion. I have proven dedication and commitment to the district. I think if you look over my voting record over the years, you'll see that it was all about the students. It's all about showing support for our employees. We must keep our focus on what is in the best interest of our school students. I have the experience, the knowledge, the dedication, and commitment, and I ask to serve you for 4 more years. Please re-elect Carol Studdard, Clay County School Board, District 2. Thank you.
Mrs. Clark?
Overall, basically, I'm a concerned citizen. And as I mentioned before, our teachers are well represented, and I think it's time that we have someone with a little bit of business sense to help out with budgets so that we can get Clay County back to being a desirable county and not keep losing them to St. John's. We need our teachers to have a positive outlook and not be discouraged. I plan to be, I'm not a politician, I don't think any of us are here, but I believe in term limits, and I also plan to be a public servant. In order for the children to be our number one priority, we have a responsibility to the people that voted us in, and that's key, that we listen and that we communicate better. But overall, I am the odd person out here. I don't believe in the sales tax increase currently, and I also don't believe in the mandatory mask wearing. And that comes not because I'm a risk taker, but because I have information with so many of us being asymptomatic that if we don't get out among the community, we can't kill the virus. It's not that I'm a risk taker. I just happen to have read different information. So again, none of us really know what it comes down to. But my goal is that we no longer be a Little Duval, that we return Clay to being the specialty educational community that it's always been in the past, and that we be very different. So I just simply ask in this year of 2020 that people have a little clearer vision and will do their research and make the right decision before they just pull the ballot and check that first one in District 2 on your ballot. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Knowles?
Again, as everyone said, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. The questions submitted were both challenging and thought-provoking, and honestly, none of which were a surprise because everyone I've spoken to has had a question similar to what was already asked. I am not a politician. I've never been a politician, but what I am is a father. I'm a teacher. I teach leadership. I teach business. I teach finance. I teach budgets. I've been an administrator. Both my parents have been teachers. I'm involved with the school system's extracurricular activities as an official in football and baseball. I've been a leader in those organizations, and I've been a leader with the Florida High School Athletic Association with both evaluating, mentoring, and assisting umpires in baseball. I think that my education and my experience both offer unique perspectives onto the school board. My experience with education as a business offers a unique perspective on the school board, and my experience as a teacher offers a unique perspective on the resources that are needed, not just for the instructors, but for the students. 2020 has been an interesting year. It's been already full of things that we've never seen before. I was in a meeting the other day, and one of the people on the call said, "What happens if we experience a hurricane?" Well, guess what's coming right now? It's just not one thing after another. It's kind of humorous if you sit back and look at it, but at the same time, it's frightening because we don't know what's next. So I say let's continue with the trend and start brand new things in 2020. And on August 18th, support Aaron Knowles for school board, Clay County District 2. Thank you for your vote.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the candidates today, and we really appreciate your professionalism. I think each one of you did your best to make the case of why the voters should select you over the others, and we certainly appreciate that. So this now concludes our forum for the school board candidates. Okay, don't forget that Clay County voters can register and vote in our straw poll at tallyed.com. That's TALLED.com. All straw poll races are on our site, on the Liberty Caucus site. The user needs to click RLC straw poll in the My Ballot section of their homepage to see the ballot. Also, early voting for primary starts in Clay County on Thursday, August 6th, and the election day is Tuesday, August 18th. So on behalf of the Republican Liberty Caucus, thank you for watching. Thank you for being informed, and please vote. We're now into this next panel.